daily crypto news in our Substack that is growing like hotcakes, ladies and gentlemen. And then my name is Matt. I am your host of Daily Crypto News, the podcast. I hope everybody had a great week. Kyle, how have you been, sir?
I'm doing well. Been enjoying the nice Pacific coast here in California. Um, as we were just talking about off camera, I'm excited for baseball to start. Um, and yeah, there's some interesting stuff happening in crypto. But yeah,
All right, so
excited.
we're
It's a
we're
good
gonna get
weekend.
into it.
Spring has begun.
Spring has begun. Baseball season's about to start. Actually, baseball season actually did start with the Cubs and the
Technically,
Dodgers in Tokyo. Um, and I think you were offline saying how the Cleveland Guardians are going to win the World Series this year. At least that's what I heard.
I wouldn't put betting money on it.
All right, we'll ignore everything you just said there. So today, ladies and gentlemen, what we are talking about, we are going to be talking about Ripple. Ripple had a lot of news this week, dropped a lawsuit. We have some questions from listeners. We're going to get into that. We have Tornado Cash. Tornado Cash's sanctions are lifted by the United States Treasury. We're going to get into the repercussions of that, plus obviously listener questions. We have Solana dropping a video, receiving a lot of backlash. We're going to play that for you and talk about it. We also have some questions, again, listener questions about the 4-year cycle tariffs. And we have Kraken and Coinbase having some acquisitions that are, or possible acquisitions that seem very interesting. And then we might have a couple more listener questions that I didn't put on the list because I did not check the Spotify right now. So we might just throw those in at the last minute. So Kyle is starting off today because if you guys want to know, we're going to tell you what we did. We actually hopped on a prep call yesterday to prep this, so we are more prepared.
Hey,
Kyle, Ripple lawsuit. What's up? Oh, wait, that's me. Not you. That's me. Yeah,
yeah,
we're so
long
prepared.
time coming. Ripple lawsuit finally over.
Yeah. Okay. So let me summarize this really quick. Just really quick. We should all know about this. If you listen to Daily Crypto News, then you know exactly what's happening. The Ripple got sued by the SEC. SEC said that the Ripple ICO and XRP is unregistered securities. Guys, you are selling unregistered securities to retail investors. That's a big no-no. We are going to sue the hell out of you. Well, a judge came in and said, bro, actually, I don't know if they're actually unregistered securities. Look, there's a lot of things happening here, but one thing that they didn't do was sell unregistered securities. And the SEC did not like the judge saying that. So the judge then came back, or so the SEC then came back and wanted to appeal that, and they were in courts. Well, because Trump won the presidency, we have a much more pro-crypto administration. They dropped that lawsuit, which a lot of people are saying now number can go up. Kyle, what are your thoughts on this?
It's another domino falling. We'll get into it as well with the Tornado Cash thing, but it seems like basically every week now we're seeing something from around or peripheral or inside the Trump administration where we've had all sorts of like little fires, where basically the government has been going after the crypto industry, whether that was going after the bankers, or not the bankers, but like the banks, and like siloing out the crypto leaders. I forget exactly the operation, whatever it was called. But yeah, this whole thing is just like these dominoes falling, right? So this is just an additional one. This has been a long time coming. This lawsuit has kind of taken the headlines, basically, I want to say since like 2017. Like this has been in a long, almost decade long lawsuit that has like finally come to fruition. It wasn't even until last year that United States, people in the US could start and actually like trade and transact their Ripple again, right? Like I had Ripple locked up in Coinbase for 6+ years. It wasn't like a whole bunch of money, but it was like it just sat in there with this writing of warning that said, Ripple cannot be touched right now. It's currently under a lawsuit. And
And
last year
where
that
was
was
it?
lifted
Where were you holding that?
in Coinbase.
In Coinbase. Oh, that's right. They did do that.
Yeah, so it might have been 5+ years and maybe not 6, but I think it was 2017 into 2024. So 6+ years. And so last year was lifted, you could finally sell it. But once that happened, that was like, in my head, that was like the headwind of like, okay, they're gonna ease and this lawsuit's likely gonna fade. But the day finally comes and here we're talking about it. So it's nice to see.
Yeah. So look, listener had a question about this. My really quick opinion about this is, yeah, you see the dominoes starting to fall. I think that we're gonna have a lot more companies start emerging. And look, it's just it. Not talking about the meme coins, not talking about anything that we kind of can see that there's kind of some debauchery happening within the crypto space. There are actual things happening when it comes to tech, when it comes to traditional finance and the rails of which they operate on, and companies that are using crypto ish products. And I'll get into my ish in air quotes in a minute. That were being stifled because of this SEC and the lawsuits and so on and so forth. So this is really opening things up for innovation in the United States. A listener asked right here. He said, "I've been listening to your show for a few months. I don't know who the hell this is. We're just going to call it 22S. I've been listening to your show for a few months. Can you explain why you don't like Ripple XRP, and how do you think the price will develop with the case being dismissed?" For me, that's pretty easy. And actually, I wrote it right down here. There we go. It's pretty easy. Ripple has made a pseudo blockchain, decentralized pseudo ledger, pseudo technology that is geared toward traditional finance. When Bitcoin came out in the white paper and in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis, we were looking at something that was going to be different, more transparent. You can self-sovereignty. We knew that digital dollars were going to be able to stop your transactions, monitor where you spend, capture data, and restrict maybe your spending in certain places, or even just confiscate your money. And Bitcoin came out and we're like, hey, cool, I can self-custody, I can get it, do peer-to-peer electronic cash. And this is a new way of taking the power back to the people. And so in my opinion, why I don't like XRP is it's basically making a quicker, more efficient way for the traditional banking system to do banking, which is all good, under the guise of crypto and blockchain. Again, they use a blockchain. They are more centralized. They have their nodes are ran by people that they approve. They pre-mine and hold a lot of the tokens themselves. It is not a decentralized, in my opinion, product, which just is more of a corporate product for traditional finance. Now, will number go up? Look, Brad Garlinghouse, the executives within Ripple XRP, and the ways that they're operating the company, they're going to have a successful company. I don't have any doubt in my mind about that. They're cozying up to the right people. They're doing the right things. They're making the products to make less barriers and more efficient transactions and less pain points for customers, consumers, and businesses. And so they're going to have a great product. And I assume number is going to go up. Not financial advice, but it's not why I got into crypto. Kyle, do you have any comments on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's when people talk about the dangers of like a CBDC, right? The like centralizing forces around that and like um, the control that a government could place on top of that. Just think of that, but in like a private form, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
just because it's Ripple doesn't mean that it's not like some like great crypto project that's gonna, champion decentralized ethos, right? Or decentralized virtues, right? So it's to me just echoing all of what you said. The fact that they've just been kind of supporting insiders and very much just like buddying up to government. So I don't know. I don't see it as like a a project that really champions crypto. Of course, there's going to be a lot of these projects. There are going to be projects that need to fit this middle ground in a way. CZ Binance actually used to talk about this, about how centralized exchanges can play that role as well. Where he was like, on the one hand, Binance has to be like a good evil in a way, where it's like it needs to play this role to bridge the world. But Ripple is just a private blockchain on their own private rails, basically, right? So yeah, it's for the reasons you just echoed, and yeah, I mean, there's just more decentralized forms of money out there.
And
Like
what do you think?
this,
What do you
this,
think of the future? What do you think of the future of the coin and the price though? What do you think of them as a company? Do you agree with my assessment that they will probably be successful, but I'm not touching it?
Yeah, I could see it being. Yeah, I definitely could see it being a successful. Watch like Amazon, someone like that, integrate with Ripple. Like that. That's something I would see in the future. And this is something we're going to probably talk about a little bit later too on this show, in the notes, with the idea of like mergers and acquisitions, with like now a lot of these crypto companies are starting to like blur the lines. And these are some of the headlines we have to talk about this week, is how this is starting to happen. And so, yeah, I mean, you can't say that it's going to be like an Amazon, but again, I could see Ripple merging with some sort of like big online marketplace, where that marketplace then starts to use their rails, and then it becomes like a blockchain form of like, data surveillance and that sort of thing. So, put into the wrong people's hands, it's just a way of just like, and this gets into to kind of jump into the next headline, the tornado cast issue, of thinking about like where do you want to draw the line for your own privacy online? Like, this is really like what the debate has to start to be, is where people draw this line. Because essentially some of the biggest, most powerful companies in the world, Amazon, Google, you know, they're basically watching how you do everything online, then building platforms to manipulate how people perceive and engage with content and anything online. And so it's like they're building these worlds, and so we have to be able to fight back against this kind of stuff.
Right.
Um, you know, and so this is what Tornado Cash is like about. It's about trying to
Can you
preserve
summarize?
that
Yeah,
privacy.
yeah. Can you please summarize what happened with this really quick?
Yeah, so this past, I think it was Friday, the U.S. Treasury, as you have here, removed Tornado Cash from the OFAC sanctions list. And this is just, again, this is another domino falling in this kind of regulatory headwind change with the Trump administration. And we actually saw a the beginnings of this even under the Biden administration, where in November of last year, basically it was like an appellate court dismissed another part of like another case that was being taken up about Tornado Cash. So it was like we kind of already were hearing about this, but this is like the major thing, where now as a U.S. user, and kind of anybody who I would think, I mean, I don't know exactly, but anybody who might be connected to like US banks can use Tornado Cash. You can now send your money through Tornado Cash again, and you're not considered a criminal. And what that means is that your ability to transact and send money online, the government preserved the right to the privacy of that. The government said, okay, yeah, we actually do believe that you, a citizen, have the right to have this privacy, right? Where it's basically like them ostensibly acknowledging that the Fourth Amendment exists, right? Of the United, like, I mean, that's kind of the point, because that's what it comes down to, is
Right.
like whether, and what it comes down to is like, do you know, is the internet a public utility, that sort of thing? Do you like, you know, you can get into debates like that, but what Tornado Cash kind of represents is whether or not code can be like cited and used for and pointed to the actual people who created it, and that the people responsible for the code are then responsible for like the actions taken by how other people use that code. So basically, like the creators of Tornado Cash were called criminals because criminals used Tornado Cash.
Right.
It was basically like saying, "Oh, you're uh, supporting Hamas, or you're supporting, you know, Hezbollah, or something like that. You know, some internationally recognized terrorist group, or something like that. Whether or not you believe those are terrorist groups or not, it's just how these delegations are made, and so then people, I mean, the funny part about some of this Tornado Cash stuff that people don't talk about too is like how the dusting of all this stuff happened, where like once they declared that you were a criminal to even receive money that was sent through Tornado Cash, people just dusted like not criminal, but celebrity wallets, turning
Or
all these celebrities
politicians.
into, yeah,
Yeah.
politicians. So like all these public wallets that are associated with, you know, everyone from like Ted Cruz, senator in, you know, whatever, to, you
Texas.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, Odell Beckham, who bought a Bored Ape yacht, Bored Ape NFT. You know, they just dusted all these people, and basically turned them into
Brilliant.
criminals. And that's the way of just like spinning it back into the government's face and saying like, look at how stupid
And
you would
dusting,
make
by the
this. You
way,
can't. You
what Kyle's saying is, when he's saying dusting, he's just saying said a lot of very, very small bits of Bitcoin,
Yeah,
or I'm sorry, of crypto
sending pennies,
to, yeah,
sending 5 cents to somebody, but it gets spun through Tornado Cash.
right,
Like it's like dropping pennies on people,
right,
but those pennies are now um,
illegal, contraband, if you will.
illegally sanctioned money, and that if anybody were to like touch and use that money, that you would be like a criminal.
Yeah, terrorist organization or criminal. Yes. Yeah. So,
But
dude.
so again, something to call out too here, just the final point here, and it says it
Mhm.
here, like Tornado Cash users backed by Coinbase, like Brian Armstrong from Coinbase was a huge proponent, like guy who helped this, and there are a lot of people in the crypto industry. The lobbyist group Coin Center, led by Jerry Brito, who is a, if you are at any if you are at any point interested in like what's happening with stuff like this, Coin Center has on their website like all of the information related to like what happened with Tornado Cash, all the court documents. It's all there. You can go read it. It's really easy to find, and they're really good at what they do. So it's really nice to find. So it's not hard to see and get the information and learn about this stuff, is kind of my point. And there's great people working on this,
So
fighting for your privacy rights.
I don't know how many people are really fighting for your privacy rights. There's a couple people. I think that some of them are trying to consolidate your privacy rights into their companies. I would very much, as much as I think Coinbase is doing a good job as a company, I would very much make sure and put them on check too, to make sure they're fighting for your privacy rights. Even though Brian is fighting for this, what is Coinbase doing as a company? Those are really good
Oh
points.
yeah.
And when it comes to like XRP, when it comes to the rails of banks and your privacy, I have 2 points. The first one is the amount of data that people share about you when it comes to corporate data is astonishing. And if we never bought into this, for example, there is a court case a lawsuit right now about GM selling, this is a pretty notorious story now, selling your driver data to LexisNexis. LexisNexis having your driver data. I'm talking about your stops, your starts, your acceleration, your turning, what time you drive, music you're listening to, blah, 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 all kinds of stuff. If you're wearing your seatbelt, if you're not, all this data is collected, sold to data brokers. Brokers then sell it to your insurance company. Your insurance company looks at this data and go, hey, are we going to up their premiums or not? And little things like saying if you have a third shift job and you drive at night, put you more at risk. So therefore, they will up your insurance just because you have a third shift job. Tesla does the same thing. If you use Tesla insurance and you put it on the app, so like this is a whole big sharing of data. And if you're talking about purchasing and something like privacy, which what you buy should be private, the way you spend your money should be private. Tornado Cash being illegal is a very big, again, like you said, a push against personal privacy. The second thing I just want to reiterate to everybody who listens to me on a daily basis, and if you haven't heard this before, is we always talk about CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. We thought that the Fed was going to make this currency, and next you know, the digital dollar, they're going to burn all the dollars, and you just operate digitally. I do think that's still going to happen, but I think that it's going to happen from a corporate standpoint. It will be the USDC owned by Circle. It will be the USDT owned by Tether. It will be maybe Amazon bucks. The rails could be Ripple. But the fact is when you have these corporate dollars that people are using, this stable coins, they buy US dollars, they make a tokenized representation, which is a tokenized asset, and then you're using it just like digital dollars. You then are transacting with corporate money and not really the issuance by the United States. So therefore, what do you fall under when it comes to corporate governance, when it comes to data and privacy protection, when it comes to the ability to turn on or turn off your supply of cash or money or digital dollars? So the ideas of CBDCs and the possible infringements that we thought we could have with those now are more at risk because now it's under corporate governance, which are private companies, even if they're publicly traded companies, you know what I'm saying? Instead of the United States government issuing them. And I think that we are actually in a worse place than we would have been with the CBDC. What do you think about that statement?
I don't know. I don't know if we would be in a worse place.
You said, I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, to me, it's look, it's like again, it comes back to just like how you think and where you want to draw that line on privacy as an individual, and how with this new technology that we have, like the internet is still very young, right? We have to be able to protect ourselves from these forces. That's my thoughts. Like it's just very simple.
All right, let's move on without my existential dread. You put a Melton link here. I don't know what this is.
Well, I mean, so yeah, I just added something to our notes there because
Okay.
It was something that came to mind while you were talking. Was this thread that I read where it's like thinking about like how crypto is in a lot of ways like rudderless right now. People are very much looking for something to follow in the industry. And this thread was really great. It was just basically, I guess, the thread that she made about her speech that she just gave at the Digital Assets Summit in New York City with for Blockworks. Anyways, the point is she's like we need to fall back on these like ethos of decentralization. There hasn't been a lot of innovation in the industry recently outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum. Like the market and like creativity is really stagnant. In this last year, she points out that even here that Bitcoin, like the whole market is being like uplifted by BlackRock and MicroStrategy in ways of just like consistently buying, and holding the line in a way. But it's this idea of like how do you find a direction again in this industry? She's a good follow. Good Bitcoin VC, very smart woman. But anyways, yeah, it's just about how like again falling back on these the true pillars of the industry, like privacy, decentralization. And if you look at it like what we've been talking about, right? Like Ripple doesn't represent all of those things, but Tornado Cash very much does. And so, which one has the government labeled a criminal recently? right? That should
Right.
kind of show you the answers to what you should like think is better for the like privacy of people and better for the average person, because more often than not, governments don't have the uh, well-being of their citizens in mind.
Moving.
Unfortunately,
Let's move on. We was talking about the Solana video. I'm gonna play this really quick.
yeah. Hard pivot to this video.
Yeah, hard pivot. I don't know how. I don't know how to transition to this. So
Dude.
really quick. So anyway, really quick. The Solana pulls a controversial video ad after Backlash. It had like gender identity portrayal. It had about 1.2 million views, and then all of a sudden they're just like, we got to pull this down because we're getting too much stuff online. Kyle, you're going to talk about this video after we play it, but let's show everybody the video. It's about 2 minutes. Maybe we won't play the whole thing, but we'll see. Hold on. And here it is. Do we see it? We do see it. And let's see if we can't hear this. Let's go. Turn my volume. Wait, that's not going to work. 1 second.
So, America, what's going on?
Well, lately, I've been having thoughts again.
What thoughts?
About innovation. You know, multi-planetary travel, nuclear energy, crypto, AI. You know, things that push the limits of human potential.
What you're experiencing is called rational thinking syndrome. Why don't we take this energy and channel it into something more productive, like coming up with a new gender?
But that's not going to stop me thinking about innovating and doing something.
Innovating, doing, these are action words, verbs. Why don't we focus on pronouns?
That's not going to help.
I sense some cynicism. Have you been betrayed in the past?
You know, I used to think the media was my friend. Can I even trust them anymore?
Of course.
Of course they'd say that. That's a biased take. I got canceled for saying 2 + 2 is 4.
Have you ever considered that math is a spectrum?
What?
America, numbers are non-binary. We've been conditioned to believe that 2 + 2 is 4. It's a societal construct.
It's literally math.
Or is it a dominant narrative? Have you been practicing state-prescribed regulations we talked about?
Yeah. I've debanked some crypto founders, and I've slowed down nuclear reactor approvals, and depending on my state of mind, I change the SEC guidelines, but I don't like it.
If we...
All right, so that's enough. We get the gist. I don't want to play the whole thing because I'm bored, and if I'm bored, you're probably bored too. So there you have it. Kyle, break it down. What happened with this? What was the backlash?
Well, you know, Solana. If you watch till the end, it puts a little part where it's like promoting how the Solana Foundation is doing. I think they called it Accelerator, an event in the United States. And so there was like a little clip where it says, America is back, time to accelerate. And it's for like an event, and it's about like the backlash came all over crypto Twitter, like almost immediately. You know, all over social media, people just instantly started to bash and say how you know, this is just like not a good political stance from Solana, especially in an industry that purports to support ideas in decentralization and stuff. You know, the take was that basically Ethereum and you know several other major players in crypto have had some transgender developers who have been very successful. You know, so it was seen as like the Solana industry taking a stance that was like against the kind of woke mindset, I guess you could say, for lack of better terms, in the last few years in the United States. It was just like like a very strong backlash. People just came out. There were people saying that the creators of this video should, commit mass suicide. Like there were people just basically saying, dump all your Solana. People saying things like, Solana is just a big boys club. Uh, Solana is pro-America, so if you're not an American, get off Solana. Like, there were just a lot of people who, like, because of how, I would say, how sensitive the world political climate is right now, around Trump, around things like tariffs, around different wars happening in the world. I just think that it was an insensitive time to drop this video. There are plenty of other ways you could be promoting uh, America and American values to promote crypto. Um, you know, uh, on the one hand, it was a very well produced video. It's not like they just like threw this thing together. You can see it's very well and it's high quality. It's very well produced. They took time to write it, which is why a lot of people came out and said, like, hey, there should have been like a stopgap on this. Look at the production quality of this. This is not something that takes a week to produce. This is several months or weeks.
Did you see the baseball logo that came out yesterday or 2 days ago, where there was the glove and the oyster in the mitt? There was the oyster in the glove, and then the pearl and the oyster.
No.
And everybody's just like, why didn't anybody just? Where was the stopgap? Hold up, let me find the picture. You continue. Sorry, let me look for this really quick.
But again, to at least the Solana Foundation's credit, the Matt Sorg, who is the I believe comms manager at Solana Foundation, what's his VP of technology. Anyways, he tweeted that that there wasn't a whole lot of oversight over the video. So you could blame that on Solana for not having the right oversight on their marketing team to pull the plug on something like this. Some of the backlash has continued as well around how they pulled the video as well. So they posted it as a tweet and they left it up for 9 hours. Instantly, right? The creativity of the internet was unleashed, and memes and all sorts of things, videos, jokes, parodies, everything you can imagine is now just like flowing onto the ether and onto timelines. And 9 hours later, Solana deleted the video, which like essentially caused it to like come around a second time, like the next day, because people were like, "Oh, they deleted it. Well, let's just show that it's still here and they can't delete history." Which,
we were talking about yesterday when we were prepping for the show. It's super ironic that we're talking about blockchains and immutable ledgers, and they think they can delete stuff, and that just pulling the plug on a video that you put out and just like it didn't happen is just what you're supposed to. That's literally anti-ethos of what we're here for, and like accountability and self. Oh, by the way, I just got to show you this really quick. So we were talking about like where's the checks and balances on like their PR team or their HR team or their advertisers, and it's like, so there's a AA ball club. It's called the Oyster Catchers. They're a Baltimore AA club, and they put this out the other day, and everybody's like, "What the hell?" This was their logo coming into this, and I thought it was just like, and nobody caught it. They went with a different one, but it just goes to what you're saying is like, was there not like one person in the room was like flagged this as like, hey, doesn't that look a little bit like looks like a vagina in a baseball mitt?
Well, just like I mean, I know this. I forget there's this documentary about design, but this guy has this great line where he says, like The decline of good design in the United States is running in parallel with the decline of like thought and consciousness in the country. Where he all he does is he does like a survey of like motel signs, like just like the average like simple design that the average person is seeing every day, and he's like the lack of creativity and all that you don't get exposed to like diminishes your thoughts and like what you can be exposed. So anyways, back to the Solana thing, like yeah, it's super ironic that they thought they could delete it. You know, in a lot of ways you have to own it. You
Yeah,
know, some people got mad because, you know, Solana had posted back during the Black Lives Matter protests under Trump and that like hot summer that was happening. That you know they had all these posts saying how they support and they're pro all the genders, blah 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 blah, and then they come out with something like this. So it's just not consistent as well with
well,
what
it is
they've
consistent.
projected.
It is consistent, and I disagree with everybody saying that it's inconsistent. First of all, I understand what they were saying with it, and I just hate when companies get political. And I think Brian Armstrong, back during everything, he put out a memo. He's just like, keep your politics at home. We're here to do a company. You do the company. You do your politics at home. Don't bring it into work. It's not Coinbase. Just stop making us political. But to think that they're all over the place in ideology is absolutely false, because what you're doing is you're basically figuring out the ideology of power right now. And if the ideology of power was to be supporting Black Lives Matter and making that kind of statements, then that's what you're going to do, because that's how you want your company to run, because you want to cozy up with the Biden administration or whatever. Now that the Trump administration is in, and honestly, if anybody's surprised by their political leanings, it hasn't been paying attention. I've been saying on the show, like David Sachs was a big investor in Solana. If you want to know what blockchains and what cryptos are going to be the future, then just look at the administration and figure out what they're invested in, and I think you've got a leg up on everybody. And Craft Ventures and David Sachs was involved with Solana. So are you surprised that they are Republican or more right-leaning? I'm not. So, but then again, Trump is in power, and they want to make sure that they're cozying up, just like Brad Garlinghouse, just like Brian Armstrong, just like everybody else, to make sure that their businesses thrive during a Trump administration. And it's just like Mark Zuckerberg. Everybody thinks Mark Zuckerberg is authentic with his brand change. I think that's just, he is following the trends. He knows the trends. Honestly, he creates the trends because of Facebook. When he was, when it was the Biden administration, he was one Zuck. And now that Trump won, he came on Joe Rogan trying to rebrand himself, goes to jujitsu, doesn't look like a pale ghost when he's out surfing. And he has this little, I don't know, curl, the watch and the gold chain going on. And so he's rebranding himself because of the ebbs and flows of power. So I don't know why people keep saying like, oh, this is what they did before, so therefore, no, they've done the same thing before. You're seeing them do what they are. They're navigating politics and power and political pressure and culture to make sure that their businesses thrive in different political environments. That's it.
100%.
So I don't think they're being. I just stop putting morals on these companies. Stop putting like your morals and political ideas on these companies. First of all, they're companies, and they're going to try to maximize their profits and maximize their products and maximize their customers, and no matter what regime or political or culture is in. And that's what honestly they're supposed to do. And they're supposed. Honestly, I think they should be apolitical. Sell the product, and the product will speak for itself. But now we have this whole like thing of, well, we're going to cancel these companies if you're not my political leanings or my culture. Then they're going to be canceled. You should have just stayed out of it, but you see how it's going.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, you should try to be, if you're one of these, like a great tweet that I saw was Solana did more for the Ethereum marketing crisis in one video than what Ethereum could have done, like, in a month or something. I forget exactly how it said it, but like Ethereum has had this marketing crisis of like everyone's trying to get Ethereum to like declare what it is, when instead of like, and Patrick had a great op-ed about this, where it's like the product is just, they're trying to just let the product speak for itself and trying to just
Right.
build a good product. And meanwhile, most most assets and value are still on Ethereum or an EVM type chain.
Right.
Just goes to show you like what people are building on. And so again, that shows you the allegiances and things. And so if like, again, this video did more for Ethereum because Ethereum didn't have to do anything. Ethereum just goes, look, we don't make stupid videos like that.
Well, I
We
think
just build and ship product.
everything Solana does is a good case for Ethereum, in my opinion. Like they can't keep their chain online. They're pretty centralized. They make videos like this, and you're 100% right. Let the product show. And look, the thing is Ethereum is Rails, and it doesn't matter who is on that, what DeFi, who's using some sort of EVM or what kind of like side chain layer 2, whatever. Like they have their own political thing, but Ethereum, once they take a stand, they're done. And they're saying like everybody can use this thing. And honestly, that is the 100% right thing to do. Is like you build on this, you do your own things. And if they ever start to go try to, I guess, politicize the chain, then I think they're in really big trouble, really big trouble. And again, Solana's whole existence has been a good argument for Ethereum. And also a good argument against some of the things they've done as well. I think Solana is, I almost like there should be a conspiracy theory that Vitalik made Solana because it's just the best way to promote different things.
I mean, it's Anatoly and the like broadband blockchain idea, like taking Qualcomm and putting Qualcomm on blockchain, and then
and by the way,
making a faster, more scalable system based off proof of history, blah blah blah. Like,
and everybody, I have a great interview with Anatoly back when Solana first came out. I have a couple of them with him, and I'm going to post those into Daily Crypto News next week because if you want a good Solana 101 when it came out and where they came from, where he came from, this is a great interview. Again, Solana is not my bag. I think the XRP army and the Solana, what do they call themselves? The Solana whatever. They call something. There's the XRP army and the Solana what? Marines? No, that's the Link Marines.
Soul Army? I don't know.
Anyway, they really don't probably listen to this show because I've never said too much good about either of them. Even though I think Solana is great for low barrier entry to mess with NFTs and buy and sell and trade. It's really, really fun to use. Really fun. And I do like the meme coin thing. I think that every creator or anybody of notoriety should have their own meme coin already and make a sanction themselves so they control the IP. They should have their own, .sol or .eth, whatever websites or domains, unstoppable domain, whatever. Everybody should at this point. If you're somebody else,
well, I think to sit on that point for a second, like thinking about sports, for example, hopefully now that you're going to see the SEC not consider meme coins, right? They're going to consider them commodities, right? So imagine now, because this is a project that I worked with. They were called Crypto Snack, and they still exist. They actually just announced last week that their announcement was that they're going to announce that they have a partnership with an English Premier League team, which is really great. They already have worked in the past with a team called Espanyol, which is the second team in Barcelona. It's like, Yankees, Mets, like there's just two Premier League teams in Barcelona. Anyways, Espanyol with Crypto Snack, they used to offer really cool fan experiences if you bought their token. So you could buy the token, then it just was like a different way of providing a fan experience. Yeah, and so that guy Martin, I actually interviewed him for them. There's an interview online with me of speaking with Martin, this guy here, Martin Braithwaite, former Barcelona player from Denmark. He's a really great investor. He owns also tons of real estate and stuff. Really smart guy. But so anyways, Crypto Snack, they actually lost their license with Espanyol because Espanyol got relegated. And this was like 2 or 3 years ago. So I believe Espanyol is in La Liga again. But anyways, my point on this is about the idea of building these fan experiences based off of meme tokens. And B&B Chain did this for a bit with some teams as well. Like I remember at one point there was a soccer match between FC Barcelona and Girona, which is a smaller team in Spain as well. Maybe not so small. They're usually like top 10 in La Liga in the last few years. I don't know, have been playing really well. They were bought by like I think it's the Saudis or something like that. So anyways, but the fans were able to like choose things that happened in the match between them. So like Girona versus Barcelona, every soccer match the teams exchange crests before the game. They had fans design the crests. Again, fan experiences, meeting players, special discounts at the bar, at the stadium, free different types of, special swag for people who buy the fan token. I really think and have always thought that fan tokens and like memifying sports teams on blockchain is like a really great way. And so yeah, there I am. That was in
I'm happy you got the beard,
2023.
by the way. Yeah, man, you need hair on your face.
That was when I was actually traveling in South America at that time.
Yeah.
So I was
Great.
like swimming in the sea and stuff every day. It was great.
Swimming in the sea every day. All right.
Yeah, going like in Rio and stuff. It was great.
Yeah, we should probably move on from. We should probably move on from this. Let's keep everything rolling. Do you have
some listener questions?
Yeah, we have some listener questions. We also want to go into. Let's see if we can bridge mergers and acquisitions within these listener questions, really quick.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to keep this moving on, so we don't turn this into a 4-hour podcast. So really quick, Malcolm the Earthling. He said, "Hey Matt, whatever AI voice, hilarious. Second, how do you think the recession will affect the 4-year cycle if the recent correction becomes a full-blown contraction, and the S&P closes 2025 at under 10%? That's actually fine, by the way. What would you expect Bitcoin to do? And if the next 4 years are bad for the economy, as the last 4 months, which I can argue it's not that bad, what do you think crypto will look like in 2028? I will take this one first, really quick. The S&P had a little correction, and look, I think that if anybody wants up only, then look, anybody who is invested in anything, if you have big gains that things get frothy, things get expensive, you need to have corrections. Anybody who's invested in the markets or follow the markets knows that you need to have corrections. If you don't, we're in big trouble, right? And so you want to see these corrections along the way. In crypto, they can be as big as 30%, but little ones in the S&P, which is little meaning still trillions of dollars, are very healthy to make sure that we still have upward momentum. So I'm not worried about 10%. Honestly, I'm not even worried about 20%. And I see over 20%, that's when we get into recession territory. I'm not too worried because we had so much prosperity in the last 5 years that even 20%, even though you're getting pulled back on people's gains, I still don't think the overall is bad. What I would say would be bad if you see a couple of metrics start to climb up. The first one is unemployment. The second one is we do have bad consumer sentiment, negative consumer sentiment. If that actually gets worse, if you see that businesses it's harder and harder for businesses to get loans, which is not the case right now, then I would say that would be bad. But right now it's easy for businesses to get loans and better than have been in the past 5 years. I would also be really concerned if I'll be looking at housing, and I'll be looking at housing and construction. Those are the metrics that are kind of like shake right now. People aren't buying houses. Loans are still expensive. Houses are more expensive than they have been ever. And also compared to income ratio, also very expensive. But the Fed is still saying and signaling that they might take rates down throughout this year. So we'll make your loan and interest rates go down. Buying could pick up. Then we need to make sure that building is picking up. So long story short is, if we're talking about the economy in general, it's not bad. There's no signs that are signaling that we are in major recession territory, or that we could have a very, very bad 2025 yet. So I'm not too concerned with it. And the other thing is that we really have to kind of look at the markets. Yes, Trump is doing these tariffs, but these tariffs are because of an administration. Just because the administration puts a tariff or says and signals they will do a tariff, again, nothing has been really enacted that is going to destroy a lot of stuff right now. These are a lot of threats, a lot of bits and pieces here and there, but these are not the economy. These are signals that could hurt the economy, but the economy is still strong. And if this breaks it, it's because of that. So right now the economy is strong, and if they remove these, I still think the economy is strong. So long story short, I don't think it's gonna be that bad. Second of all, everything has changed. The ETFs have went into the market. The ETFs, we followed a 4-year cycle pretty consistently before traditional finances walked in there. And remember, these traditional finance people, these Wall Street people, they operate different than crypto people. We have this we've made this culture of diamond hands, and anything less than 100% gains is have fun staying poor. They'll take those 5% and 10% gains, man. And so if you see Bitcoin pop over to 100,000, if you don't think Wall Street's not just foaming at the mouth, try to take that 20% from up from where we are now, they will. So I don't know how this is going to play out, because traditional finance is involved more so than, say, the economy at the point. And I still think the economy is going to be strong in 2025. I want to see what happens in 2026. Nothing's really too flashy. We don't have inverse yields. I just feel that a lot of the news hype and cycle is messing with people's minds more than it's actually messing with the economy. What do you think, sir?
Yeah, and this is I think you said this to me as well as I've heard it somewhere else, but I think things will be contingent on the midterm elections in the United States, like trying to predict what will happen in 2028. Well, does the Trump administration maintain congressional control, and majorities in both houses there? Or will you see some sort of logjam happen where then it's a bit more difficult to get legislation through. It's a bit more difficult to enact policy, and so when that happens, it's hard to know because it's just. So yeah, I think what happens in 2028 is contingent on, again, midterm elections. Like everybody kind of has an idea of what these next 2 years are going to be like. It's going to be pretty chaotic. I think that's the point. The bulldozer, the Bannon bulldozer. Is pushing through and they're trying to piece together this like Curtis Yarvin technocrat type thing. And this kind of falls into I shared another link in our notes there about I didn't actually share the link, but there's actually a feature article in Fortune today about Jesse Powell from Kraken about a recent issue he's having in San Francisco trying to buy an apartment. And it's funny, I actually know that building. And I'm gonna show this to my partner after this and be like, this dude's trying to buy in this building, because we used to live not far from there. It's like a very well-known building in the city. It's got beautiful views, blah blah blah, and that's like kind of what the article states. It's like how the top of it is used. The top of it is used for I think if you use this archives link, you can check it out. But the top of it, it's penthouse, blah, 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 blah. But basically the issue is that there's like a homeowners association or like a co-op that like owns the building and like can control the tenants. And they don't want Jesse Powell to buy his apartment. and move in there because he's like pro-Trump and is a conservative. And I haven't read because I just kind of found the article right before we jumped on this, and so I want to take a fine-tooth comb and look at it a little more. But yeah, it's about like how he still struggles with uh, assimilating with liberals in San Francisco, and um, I think this is just something that is going to continue to play out. Like to call the midterm elections out, for example, like there's still this cultural clash, um, and it's very much playing out in San Francisco. There's a lot of like silent conservatives who are pushing back, where like a lot of that tech money that backed Trump came from maybe not directly San Francisco, but Silicon Valley and San Francisco adjacent. A16Z, Winklevosses, those kind of people. I mean, David Sachs, I think, spent time in Silicon Valley. So, anyways,
I think he still has a house there.
yeah.
Sachs.
So, anyways, I just thought this article was really interesting in that it came out today, and it's like a feature about him in this like specific struggle he's having trying to get in an apartment in San Francisco. He's trying to buy it for cash. Like they just don't want him in his politics, and it reminds me of like there's probably myriad stories like this, but there's a classic story. Speaking of baseball, but of when Willie Mays moved from New York City to San Francisco when the baseball team, I think it was 1956, moved, or 1957, moved from the San Francisco Giants. The New York Giants became the San Francisco Giants a couple of years after the Dodgers moved from Brooklyn to LA. Anyways, Willie Mays wanted to live in this certain neighborhood, and they like redlined him out, and it became like a huge controversy. And in like the liberal San Francisco, people are not open to ideas. Is like, and then that's like what you see here with Jesse Powell, is that these people who should be open-minded and liberal are actually not. They're not willing to have this guy who might have a few contrarian opinions to them be their neighbor. And
Right.
it's like, okay, I think this is just like a snapshot of a lot of what's wrong
again,
with the world.
I mean, but it's I just don't. What do you expect if you put politics into your life? I mean, look, if you're building a business and you put politics within your business, and then you make politics a thing of your life, I mean, what do you expect? It's like, hey, I have this opinion, and it's literally an opinion that is against yours, and it's going to affect your life in a way that you don't want it to affect that way, Democrat or Republican, and everybody's just like, but it's my opinion, and therefore I shouldn't have an opinion about that. Like, of course, you should have an opinion about that.
Yeah.
It's just weird. Like, people want to do the politics thing and then get mad because people react to their politics, and that's businesses, companies, Republicans, and Democrats. Like, what do you expect? I don't know. And anyway, moving on to our last listener question.
Mm-hmm.
Last listener question. Hold on, I'm slower than you, man. I'm controlling the screen and sharing screens and stuff. You got to give me some grace, bro. Don't just. There you go. He's rushing me. Kyle says, "Oh, we got another Kyle. Kyle Myers. He has a picture there. We should zoom in on that and see who he is. Anyway, hey Matt, huge fan of the program. Listen to you every day driving home from work. Best time to listen to me is driving home. I used Coinbase. However, I feel that by the time a lot of coins are released, they have already made significant growth. What platforms give me the fastest opportunity to purchase new coins? Thanks again. Can't wait to see the live today. Well, I hope you're watching Kyle. Here we are. I'm with Kyle. So lots of Kyles up in here. Okay, so here's my Kyle. If you listen to my show every day driving home, then you should know my opinion on this. My opinion is there are 13 million coins out there, bro. Like, you're not going to find the small coin that is doing the thing. And I don't know how you're going to comb through it. I mean, unless you know somebody that knows somebody, or you know the people, or there's a way to, because first of all, you don't know if they're scammers. You don't know like if they actually are committed. You don't know how well they're funded, or if they can manage the company, and all these different things. And even if they are real, and out of the 13 million coins that are out there, most of them are meme coins and shit coins. And how many actual companies are there? And to be perfectly honest, my opinion of this, not financial advice opinion, My opinion of this is you have people like XRP and Ripple. We just spoke about them, and I'm going to use them as an example. You have those companies still have longevity and have number go up. Like they were a stable coin for I think probably 4 or 5 years of 25 cents. They were just going sideways for years and years, and now they're at $2 and something cents. So just because they've been listed on Coinbase or listed on Binance or whatever, doesn't mean that they've plateaued. It means that they have actually done the work. They might have a company. You have to look into them, do your own diligence, see what they're building, see if there's a good product market fit, and then watch them grow. But I think being on Coinbase actually gives you more validity that, hey, maybe we got something here that we can look at that now can, go up to a different level of success. Just because you have a coin that, went from $100,000 market cap to even 100 million on speculation alone, and you missed all that, doesn't mean, one, that it can't go into the billions, or two, that that even all of that money is going to stick around, because they're just there to speculate. So anyway, I'm much more conservative with this. Yes, I do gamble at the crypto casino every time, or every once in a while. And yes, I have lost more money than I have won on the crypto casino. And I can just tell you, I think I told you, I think I've actually mentioned on this show, I'm down like 15 grand this year, guys, off of the crypto casino. It is embarrassing, and I don't want to admit this, but it is true. And that's because I don't follow my own advice by sticking to companies that I know. And I was just honestly just trying to follow trends in markets, and instead of cashing out when I was up 50%, I again diamond hands and wanted my 1,000x gains like an idiot. But yeah, the best companies in my opinion are the ones that are still there. I always mention like XRP, Ripple, XYO, Ethereum, and I don't want to call them as companies, but even protocols or decentralized networks or whatever you want to say. They're the ones that are still working. They actually have people there doing the thing. They have organizations and missions and whatever, and it's not just a shitcoin that you're trying to gamble in the crypto casino. Kyle, what's your thoughts on this?
I mean, I have a slightly different take, right? So when we used to write back, so there's a phenomenon called the Coinbase effect, where a lot of tokens will exist for a long time before going on to a DEX, or not a DEX, a centralized exchange like Coinbase, or even like a Binance or whatever, OKX, etc. And so a lot of times these coins will exist beforehand, and when they do land on Coinbase, they will get a significant pump, right? Because then it does get that validity, and it does get verified, and more people, there's just more retail access to that. So there are places to find these tokens before they land on Coinbase, and they're usually all decentralized. And so, when we used to work with the Railgun guys, one of their guys, Adam, said, centralized exchanges should be used like bathrooms. You should get in, get out, and wash your hands. A centralized exchange, like if you're going to try and find stuff before Coinbase, it has to be chain specific. So you'll have to know where that token or coin has been deployed first. On Coinbase, you don't have to worry about what chain it's on. It's just you're buying it on Coinbase. It's centralized. You don't have to worry about whether your wallet is connected to Ethereum or not. Ethereum or Binance, BNB chain, or Solana, or AVAX or Monad, or wherever you might be buying this token. So if it's on Solana, I'll say this: like a great way to find tokens at the beginning, like if you want to be in the meme coin trenches, is somewhere like Dex Screener. So Dex Screener, I think I've showed this to you before, Matt. It's like got the eagle, and you can link your wallet there. You can be trading shitcoins. You can be, as they say, in the trenches on Dex Screener. You got to be watched though, because some of the information can be falsified, and you just got to be on your toes if you're going to be doing that. Lots of rug pulls and stuff like that. But again, Dex Screener will allow you to use different chains, which is why I say it might be a good place to start. But for example, like if you're going to be on Solana, for example, like you probably want to be using something like Radium. Radium this week announced that they're going to have, yeah, this is Dex Screener. This is just like the, shitcoin directory in a lot of
I mean,
ways.
there's
You can see
200
it.
pages here. Like, I don't. Here's the thing: is like I understand what you're saying. It's just how do you figure out find the actual company that has an LLC or whatever that actually has people that show up to an office or work that actually has a plan or a mission through all of this. Each page has what 200, 100, and there's 200 pages. Like, how do you even do that, bro?
Well, so yeah, so I mean,
And
there's
not
the
lose your money
concept, right?
in the casino.
Well, there's the
bro.
concept of like do your own research, right? So like you could take the project Fartcoin is a good example where I think it's that one there, Fartcoin, right? It's been around for a while. Market cap, right? Almost 500 million. I don't know if it's launched on any centralized exchanges. But right, it's from Pump.fun. Like it's one of the success stories from there. Right. And Radium this week announced that it's going to be having to have its own sort of Pump.fun. And I forget, Pump.fun announced that they're going to have a partnership with someone else. I forget who it was. Yeah, I mean, you can be, yeah, Fartcoin, the great Fartcoin. But right, so like it pumped really hard in like January. So I know that there were newsletters you could be there were newsletters that I get that were pumping and talking about Fartcoin like in November, December. I remember being in Thailand at DevCon and people talking about Fartcoin. So it was like you could understand when it launches, in October and November and get in there. And if you're a believer in Fartcoin and you believe the memes and etc., you can try and ride it to some point. It's basically dropped off back down to original prices. But that's kind of, in some ways, that's reflective of the whole meme market. But
yeah, but that's the meme market. I guess we're talking about two different things. Yes, Dex Screener and Radium and all these other places, you can find coins and you can sort by. I just did it. Sort by age and see what longevity is. And
I mean,
that might be
is
a
the
good way to
general
look at the
listener
longevity.
question: is where can you find this stuff? And this is a place to do that.
But what I'm trying to say, okay, there's a difference between playing the casino and then seeing companies as they continue to merge over time as somebody who's actually doing something. And I guess that
100%.
Why okay, first of all, what does Fartcoin do? Are you going to put money in Fartcoin? Number could go up. I'm not going to invest in Fartcoin because I don't even know what does Fartcoin do, bro? What does Pepe do?
Exactly.
That's the point. That's the point I'm trying to make. It's like, are you looking for a company that does a thing, or are you looking for up only?
But you can
Kyle over here. I don't know what he wants.
But
I don't want to be playing the casino.
You can be looking at things like launch pads. So, for example, like a reputable token or a reputable project might say that they're gonna do a token drop on different launch pads. So then you as a user could go to a token launch pad and basically get like I'm talking with a project right now that is basically kind of going through a token launch potentially in the future. And this idea is like they want to do a community launch, right? So they want to be giving like their community a similar offer or an equal offer that quote unquote KOLs. Like that's what Movement Labs is doing. Like they're trying to look at how Movement Labs did their recent drop. And so what that could mean is like, okay, if you see a legit project like Movement Labs and you go, oh wow, big backing, they've got $500 million, like blah blah blah. They're got all these great founders. Like it's a project with a mission that's legit. But at some point they're going to drop a token, and so they usually will announce that it will be released. They will have certain launch partners. And so what you have to do is you just have to be in the news, pay attention to news, see when projects are going to launch, see when for example, like Monad, for example, right now, they airdropped. Like, if you are an Ethereum user, have you used Ethereum passively? You probably can go to the Monad testnet, and you probably have fractions of Monad in your wallet that they airdrop to you. They dusted like a couple 100 million wallets, I think it was. So there's just like free Monad tokens to go try their testnet right now, right? And so that's a way of like, okay, you were just given kind of free money, free testnet tokens, and you can go try out their testnet. And that's a way where a lot of times people will be rewarded in the future with airdrops and things like that. So that's another way of getting tokens before they land on Coinbase, is to basically airdrop farm. And so, like, it's the basic idea is that a lot of tokens will exist before they go on somewhere like Coinbase. So the idea is to just, where do you get into them? Start paying attention to projects before they reach that point.
Yes.
Is like the overall thing
Okay.
there.
So I'm going to roll this back and say, like, okay, there's two things. I just want to bifurcate what I said. Most tokens are going to, if they go on a centralized exchange, there's easier barrier to entries in Coinbase. So you'll see them on KuCoin or whatever. Like, you'll see them on a centralized exchange. So they're doing things, you can find them. And if you are paying attention to the news cycle and tuning into Daily Crypto News, you'll see them pop up on different things. And if they're doing something, you'll see them pop up. But what I guess what I was saying is, the crypto casino will burn you if you without understanding the longevity of these projects. And just because they get on Coinbase, and trust me, I have a coin right now that I'm looking at that pumped during Coinbase when they got released on Coinbase and never hit there again. They're like 90% down from their Coinbase pump, their all-time high, but they're not on Binance. So hey, fingers crossed. So there are different ways to, if they're a Coinbase. I'm just saying, once they hit Coinbase, doesn't mean that they're off the table, like you missed it all. Because if for this example, this coin that I'm looking at, a Binance pump could be very significant too if you're looking for the pump. Also, this company has been around for years, so I just don't want to discourage people to say, like, hey, there's no gains to be made by Coinbase, if they're not on Coinbase. But you are 100% right. Following the news, looking at these things, and following these different companies or coins over time, you'll see what they're doing and understanding the ethos of them a lot better. And just because they're not on Coinbase doesn't mean they're on KuCoin or something like that. And they are working proactively to get on Coinbase, to get on Binance, to get on these other big exchanges. And look, and remember, we're at a 4-year cycle. Goes back to the last question. Just because they hit Coinbase doesn't mean a 4-year cycle is not going to hit, and they're going to not moon in 4 years from now and hit new all-time highs or higher highs than the highest high you ever could think. We've seen that before. So I don't know. I just don't want to discourage people because Coinbase isn't like the coin's dead. That's the growth is done. Like, no, that's not the case.
Yeah, exactly. It's not an endpoint, but like, again, it's not always the
which
the
it could
origin,
be an endpoint for some of them, though.
Yeah, it can be.
It could be, and I have seen it. I've seen coins go on Coinbase and never pump again. It does happen.
Right. Yeah, it does happen.
All right. I'm happy we got to debate something here at the end, Kyle. Thanks everybody for listening. We're going to end it here. It's been an hour and 15 minutes. This is our longest live yet. Look at us, the stamina of the Daily Crypto News team. Kyle, you have a good one, man. And everybody, please, you can find Kyle at dailycryptonews.net. You can find me at Matt, M-A-T-T, at dailycryptonews.net. Our names are over there in the little boxes. Go sign up for our newsletter at dailycryptonews.net. You see a theme here. So put your email address in there. You'll get our articles every day. We're not here to copy what CoinDesk and The Block and Decrypt and everybody puts out there. We don't use none of that news. We actually try to think and write our own news and our own opinions, which sometimes are unpopular, sometimes are popular. But check that out so you have your own our opinions in your news feed. And we will see you next week. Thank you, Kyle.
All right, everybody. Ciao, ciao.
All right. It looks like we're done.
Cool.
And look at that. We have